will be on the internet. So that's just the first thing I have to know, to check, to say to you. Well, welcome very much to this webinar, and I'm very happy that you joined. And the webinar is about tacit knowledge, culture, and informal learning, a theme that's, well, it's a topic of my heart. And well, first let me introduce myself. My name is Yvonne van der Poel. My background is in sociology, with specialization in non-Western societies. And I worked, my first 10 years of my career was within development cooperation, and then I switched to profession of trainer. And of course the intercultural field was right there. And recently I added intercultural, or let's call it like this, intercultural online and intercultural blended trainings to my repertoire. And I do a lot of things: training courses, coaching, webinars, but also mainly blended programs, train the trainers. And I'm based in the Netherlands, and I'm a member of Sietar Netherlands here. So welcome to all of you. Let me talk a little bit about the program. Well, this is the introduction, and I hope the audio gets working of all the other ones. And I just hear somebody. It's Pavy. Hi, Pavy.
Yes, finally.
Yes.
Now I have it, but I didn't have it before.
No, how did you do?
I didn't do anything. Somebody else must have done something.
Oh, well, I think you probably was part of it too, somewhere clicking. Yeah.
No, I wasn't doing anything. I've actually trained using this, so I didn't have, the feature to do anything about it.
No. Well, I'm very glad you're in.
I'm happy to hear something. Thank you.
Yes. Oh, great. And we're just starting just because the others were in,
No worries.
So, yes, thank you.
Sure.
Well, this is the first introduction to the program. It's about the webinar features, and a couple of you are still trying to get the features done, and especially the audio. Well, you see here on the right top the names of the participants, and in the bottom there's the chat function, and so you can chat with each other, you can chat to everyone, and we're going to use this also during an assignment we have in here. But also when you have some technical questions, it's the IRC Center, the host. There's the one to ask for technical advice. And it's Eric, and he's the webmaster of Sietar Netherlands, who's between the on the buttons over there. Well, I already said, well, this will be recorded, so you know that. Well, there's a check-in, and just before the webinar, just last week, I sent you the Padlet, and I'll show it to you again, because a couple of you just came up with their photos and pictures of the tacit knowledge, the domains of tacit knowledge they have. And that's why we come into the topic of tacit knowledge and the way we learn, and the way we learn things, and how that's related to culture. And also how that's related to social learning and informal learning and blended learning. So it's mostly about learning tonight and how we learn on the intercultural field. And I see Rut also coming in here. Hello, Rut. Or Ruth, I don't know how to pronounce your name. But I see you muted yourself, but you're in. It will be a very interactive webinar, at least that's what I'm aiming at, and that's why I'm using WebEx, because it's a webinar tool that can be very interactive. So we're going to use the chat function, we're going to use whiteboards, and well, I'll be talking a couple of times, but we'll mainly also be discussing amongst ourselves with this group. So I'm looking very much forward to that. Yes? Hello?
Oh, thank you very much. Can you hear me now?
Who is it?
It's Ruth. Hi.
Who is it? Excuse me?
This is Ruth. Hi.
Hi, Ruth. I couldn't pronounce your name. Hi, Ruth. I'm very glad you're in. We can hear you loud and clear.
Thanks.
Great. It's still a couple of people probably having trouble with their audio, but still we're getting more and more people. Hello, pomegranate. I see at least your camera, and we're not using cameras during the webinar, but we're looking forward to get your audio connected. And she doesn't seem to be knowing what's going on. Let's see, what I'm going to do now is share my screen. And I'll share my screen and let's see where it comes up with the webinar and with my email program. And here is the Padlet. And look at this beautiful Padlet that you created, a couple of you. And I hope the ones are in already. Please introduce yourself by your name and by the photo that you added and why this is your tacit knowledge is on this area. So please, the one who has the M&M, if you're in, or let me do it in the other direction. Let's start with the ones who are in. Let's see, where are we? No, I can't do that. I have to do it like this. Sorry, I have to do it like this. George, did you add a photo?
I did, but I don't see it there.
Oh, really? Maybe you can explain which one you added.
It's too small for me to see, actually. But, oh, yes, I did. I put the muscles up.
Oh, the muscles. It was the moves. It was a very small one, yes. Well, maybe introduce yourself by just saying maybe one sentence, sorry, that brief, but about why do you have that much tacit knowledge about mules?
Because I swim out into the Mediterranean and gather them for lunch as often as I can in the summer.
That's great.
I know where to find them.
You know where to find them, yes. That's perfect. Thank you very much. It's such something else that we know of you, you know, this is the move. Ruth, did you put a picture on the Padlet?
Yeah, but I can't see it.
Oh, really?
Yeah, put one, maybe it was the second one, but I can't see it. It's about Confucius.
Yes, no, it's not on there.
No.
No, maybe it's, no, it's not lower, it's not besides the edges either.
It was besides the mules. It was close to George's picture.
Oh, really?
George was the first picture and mine was the second one, but it's not there anymore.
No, that's amazing, yeah. Can you explain, because it was about Confucius, you said.
Yeah, and I added the word learning, and what is the tacit knowledge about that? Well, I think I know pretty much about learning styles in China, what you can see from a let's say with more implicit than explicit, and with on cooperation, yeah.
Yeah, and that's why you just added Confucius as like the symbol of that.
Yeah, Confucius is more or less the one who influenced a lot the learning style in China.
Yeah.
We have it today, and that's why I added him.
Oh, great. Well, you must add it later on again, please.
Yeah.
Yes, thank you. Lena, did you add a picture on the Padlet? Let's see. I'm not sure whether Lena hears us. I know her audio is working. Well, maybe we come back just later with the ones I'm just skipping right now for the moment. Birgit, did you add one?
Yes, I did. Can you hear me? Is my tone?
Perfect.
Yes. All right. I added the scuba diving one. I must admit, I added this one. I love scuba diving, but I would have probably added something else. But I just returned from a tour abroad, like an hour before the seminar here started. And so I just read your mail, and I quickly took one picture that was available, and I added it to your pin wall. So this is why there's scuba diving. But I actually love scuba diving, and I spent lots of my free time underwater.
Yeah, so you know a lot about, you have a lot of tacit knowledge about the underwater world.
I am a marine biologist. So
wow,
yes.
Look at this. Great, thank you. Päivi, did you add one to the Padlet?
Yes, for sure I did. It's the photo of a camera.
Yes?
So, yeah. So I think there are two sides to it. Firstly, I do take it almost everywhere with me, and the second thing is that with camera you sort of learn this idea of thinking in frames. You focus on things, and sometimes you kind of focus very, very close to something, and sometimes you take a look at the broader perspective of things. So it has many meanings for myself, and I've taken it all around the world, so it's my mate.
Oh, wow, great. I love the metaphor. Thank you. Helen, did you add a picture to the Padlet?
Yes, I have self-stereotyping here. I've added the picture with the many champagne bottles.
Oh, look at it.
I love it.
I'm very experienced in drinking champagne.
Mm-hmm.
No, but not only that, in you know, differentiating amongst the different types, and you know, the level to which you have bubble structure, you know, whether you feel the wine structure and the grape or not, whether it's made of white grapes or dark grapes. And moreover, you know, my grandparents were of the Champagne region, so we tended to, it was more of a communal type of celebration drinking throughout my childhood, and we used in that region to drink it not only for festive reasons, so not only for, you know, the New Year or weddings, but also for funerals and everything. It's a way to celebrate the fact of being together.
Yes, oh, perfect. Thank you very much. Great. Let's see. Steffi, did you add one to the Padlet?
Yes, I added one. I added the M&M, the two kids.
Yes.
And yeah, they take actually a lot of time at the moment. So one is 3 months old.
Ah, yes.
And so I think I use myself a lot of tacit knowledge, and they are actually half German, half Persian, Iranian. So they will learn many things without knowing them from two different cultures.
Yes. Oh, this will be one great field of tacit and explicit knowledge, probably. Yes.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah. Well, thank you. Let's see. Who has added the cashew fruit? And has that person already a good audio connection?
That was me, Sabina, but I was kicked out initially, and I missed out on any explanation what tacit knowledge is really all about.
Yes, and we didn't do that so far. We just started with the introduction, so we did it vice versa.
Of what tacit knowledge could be, I added the cashew fruit because I know you can make a good liqueur from it. Various sorts of liqueurs being made from it from a Belgian family in Senegal. But how this is exactly made, that is, I think, a secret to them. And I wonder if that is their tacit knowledge.
Yeah, okay.
Whether tacit just means I'm not able to explain it, although I know it. Does that mean tacit knowledge?
Yes,
So
it's one explanation, yes.
But frankly, I was putting that in with an assumption of what the topic means.
Yeah, well, and that's good. That's just what it's meant for. Thank you. Who added the radio or the pomegranates? And do you already have your audio working?
Now I have audio. Thank you.
And who are you?
My name is Monica Alamdan Iman.
Ah, Monica. Yes.
And who I am talking to?
Yvonne.
Oh, Yvonne. Oh,
yes.
Nice to meet you.
You added the pomegranate, Monica.
Yes.
Yes. Why?
Why? Because this is my past. That's the fruit of my childhood. I was born in Iran and I was raised bicultural I had a German mother and an Iranian father. And pomegranate is something, it's a symbol of my childhood.
Ah, yes. Perfect. Thank you.
Mm-hmm.
And who added the radio? And then it's silent. And there's also somebody added cooking, and there was a picture, and now the picture has gone. So maybe that person is also around.
No, I'm still here. Can you hear me?
Yes. But what's your name again?
Hi, Yvonne. It's Maura.
Ah, Maura. Hi. How are you?
Yes.
And the
It's not there. I thought I uploaded a picture of cooking because, I don't know, maybe because I'm Italian. I love food and to cook, especially for friends and to organize dinner with people around me. So still the action and the verb is there. I don't see the picture, but maybe you can do something about it.
Yeah, no, but you were adding and then it was gone again. But it is cooking that you feel it's a domain where you have a lot of tacit knowledge about.
Yeah, well, let's say I like to do it. I do it in a very spontaneous way. And my guest team appreciates what I'm cooking, so I suppose somehow can manage to do it.
Yeah, perfect. Thank you.
I don't think too much about how to mix spices and how to create tests which normally.
Thank you. I think we already heard a lot of ingredients of what Tacit is all about, even if we don't know yet the definitions or something like that. The person who added the radio, is that person having the microphone already on? No, I don't think so. No. Oh, well, and the gardening, I put the gardening on. I thought, well, why not share just also my own picture? And I love gardening and growing plants and putting them here or there and where the sun and the shade and that might also be quite tacit. I'm sometimes not knowing what I'm doing, but, well, usually many things flower and flourish. Well, thanks for sharing before the webinar already on the Padlet. And I stopped sharing my screen right now, and we go back to our webinar. Because here was the Padlet just a couple of hours ago. Just so very recently you just added on, and well, thank you very much. I think we heard a lot of people. There are a couple of people let me know that they didn't have a picture added on yet, and maybe I can hear just to have all the names around. I think, Christian, we didn't hear you yet, did we? Christian, can you introduce yourself? No, I don't think so. Maybe Julia, can you introduce yourself?
Yeah, sure. It's Julia Mabruso. I'm from Germany, working for Culture Wave. And I came a bit late to the webinar because, as you know, Yvonne, I've been invited late.
Yeah,
so
you were on the waiting list.
I was still on the way back home, and now I'm on my laptop.
Yeah. What would you have added when you had the opportunity?
I was just now thinking about it because as I came late, I wasn't sure what the task was. I might have added just a picture maybe of my dog because I think there's a lot of implicit knowledge because the dog can't speak. So you need to kind of guess what the dog is meaning, and maybe you have some tacit knowledge about a dog's language after a couple of months and years.
Yeah, that's true. Thank you. Martina, I see you're having your audio connected right now.
Sí.
Sí. Hola, ¿qué tal?
How are you? Fine.
Good. You didn't add a picture, did you?
Oh, sorry, I didn't have the time to.
No problem, but what would you have added, Martina?
Well, it's a very complicated question. I saw that your answers and your pictures were very good, but as Julia said, maybe an animal, a dog. Learn a lot from them and in a way that you can't realize, I think.
Yeah.
Or another option would be maybe a trip, you know, traveling, you learn a lot of things while you don't realize you are learning.
Yeah, that's true. Thank you.
So it would be a good option.
Yeah, great. Let's see. Petra, did we hear you? I'm just checking. No connection yet. Ruth, we heard, isn't it?
Yeah.
For. Yeah, sick for. Hello, how are you? Probably no connection yet. Oh, well, thank you very much for most of you. We've heard you, we've seen your pictures. Thanks for sharing so much. And I think we heard already a lot of ingredients and thoughts, especially thoughts like, what is it all about, tacit knowledge? And where do we find it? And also, why is it important? And last but not least, why would it be important for our profession? Well, and here's Confucius again. Yes. So, and I took this quote, and I think many of us already know this quote. I hear and I forget. I see and I remember. I do and I understand. And I think that's a very, well, lovely way. It's very brief and it says so much, you know. It says so much in the way about how people learn and how we forget and how much we forget throughout life. But the things we learn, they are deep, you know, in a way, but they are deep only when you do it and not only by hearing things or reading things. And I'm always very intrigued by this, I don't know whether you know it, by the learning pyramid, the Edgar Dale's cone of experience, saying that we generally remember of the learning activities like only 10% of what we read and maybe 20% of what we hear and then 30% of what we see. So when more things are added on, you know, we remember more, but at the moment when it's combined, seeing and hearing, it's already more, and especially when we start processing it, when we remember what we say ourselves, and we also remember better when we write about it. And well, not forget, you know, at the moment that we start doing it, then it's even so much more profound, and it's harder to forget. And I find that interesting. And then tacit knowledge come in, and I thought, well, why is tacit knowledge just something in my mind? Well, I'm not the only one, you know. I'm not sure whether some of you know the University of Constance, but just 1.5 years ago, they organized a 2-day congress about tacit knowledge and intercultural communication. So it's good to be aware of the layers of knowledge and also the deeper layers of knowledge, I think, and the tacit ones, the intangible ones. And well, here's the definition. You already, a couple of you said, well, what is it all about? Well, it was firstly introduced, and that's the last bullet point, by Polanyi. He's a philosopher, and he already introduced it in 1966. And in fact, this one quote, he says, we know more than we can tell. So yes, we have so much inside of us, and we might not even find the words, but we know it. Like George said, I know where the moles are, you know. And I heard somebody saying, like the dog, you know, it was Julia. You know, we cannot speak, so I have to look and be aware. So it's so much more, and maybe you cannot even tell what it exactly is in the face of the dog or in the behavior or the gestures, but you know something is going on, or you know. So what is tacit knowledge is defined as implicit, non-conscious and unacknowledged knowledge. It's very implicit. It's silently required through practice, socialization and habits. So of course, the way we're being brought up by our parents, and one of you said already, well, bicultural backgrounds or bicultural children, you know, socialization, practice, habits, and also, of course, cultural norms, cultural values. We all receive it, and it's being processed it's such implicit ways often and non-conscious and unacknowledged. But it's very powerful at the same time. We know so much, you know. So that's what I like very much about tacit knowledge, and at the same time it's a very difficult term, in fact. Let me see. Let me put it against explicit knowledge. And explicit knowledge is, it can be codified in a tangible form. It can be easily communicated, or much more easily communicated and shared, and it's more the characteristics of the know what, you know. While tacit knowledge is not that easy to visualize, it's quite hard to express, and it's even highly elusive, and it's more also about the know-how. So let me put, like, well, just an easy example of our field, our intercultural field. There's a telephone somewhere. Please mute yourself at the moment that you have some background sounds, and only when you're speaking you can unmute yourself. Let me introduce just this brief example from intercultural field, like time and dealing with time and with planning and all that. For instance, when you have an appointment with an important client at 11 o'clock and you know you're running late because of traffic or trains or whatever, we can easily explain, like, you know, we have linear time cultures and we have polychronic time cultures. That's the know what, but what does it actually mean? Would it mean at 11 o'clock that you, for instance, at 10:30 already start calling the person saying that you probably will run late? Or would you do that at 10 to 11 or 5 to 11 or exactly at 11? Or wouldn't you even think about it? Or maybe just when it's a quarter past 11, just have a telephone call, say that you're coming late? So yes, we know something about linear time cultures and polychronic time cultures, but what is exactly the know-how? At what moment do you feel that something in your time is occurring, you know? So I think that's exactly the difference between explicit knowledge and tacit knowledge. The tacit is so much harder to grasp, and it's so subtle, and that's what I heard a couple of you. I think it was Maura saying about cooking, like, you know, I'm just putting some ingredients, some herbs in it, and I'm not even sure which ones, but it just, you know how you do it, making those ingredients and how you find the right combination of that dish. So that's the things I would like to say at first about tacit knowledge, and right now I would like to ask you here, what do you see here? And maybe somebody would like to say that out loud.
A flat tire.
Flat tire, from
a bike.
What? Bike. Okay. Did everybody see that, or?
Yes.
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 You do need a couple of background information to see it, you know. You have to be aware of tires and bikes. So maybe people who are from an area where there's not much use in bikes, they don't use it, and they don't see it that quickly as you saw it. And let me go to this little movie right now. I'm going to show you this little movie, and later on I'd like to hear a couple of things from you. And please, can you all mute your microphone while we are having, just by clicking behind your name, you can mute yourself. Well, let me show you this.
Okay, it's good. when the salt is very hot and something like it maybe not work properly. After sometimes it can make no need of technical training, and so no need of much material. So.
Okay. Well, I think you all saw it. And please write in the chat your answers on those two questions. What did you find interesting or remarkable in this brief little movie? And how does this movie relate to tacit knowledge? And please, Agatha, welcome. Please could you mute yourself, your microphone?
Oh, of course.
Thanks. The chat box is on the right-hand corner, and please just send to everybody your answers on those two questions.
Yvonne, this is Ruth.
Yes, hi, Ruth.
I didn't see the movie.
Really?
Yeah, I couldn't see it.
Oh,
I'm using the iPad for the webinar, and maybe it was not supported. I couldn't see it. So
no.
That's too informal. That's why I don't have any comment.
No, I can understand. What I will do is send you the link, and I will do it after the webinar, so you'll be able to see it anyway. I think all the other ones, because I see the first answers coming in, all the other ones did see it.
No, Yvonne, sorry, this is Sabina. I actually wrote your message in the chat privately while it was running. I couldn't see it either.
Oh, really? Okay. And you're
No, not an iPad, but an iMac.
Okay, that might be the case. Yes, sometimes it's not supported. And I hope that it would be like 95% it would be supported, but I'm sorry to hear this. And let me see, sorry, I cannot just, that's just a pity for you. What we saw during the little video, and it might come out in the answers right now, is we saw a man repairing a tire, just a flat bike tire, just like the picture, but it was in Africa, in Ethiopia to be specific, and he did it in such a way, and that comes now, we come with the answers, that it was quite, well, intriguing, like what is happening there. So let me just see what we have here as answers. Like somebody saying, well, it was creativity, and somebody else said it was resourcefulness in using what you have. Here somebody says, a great solution that requires no extra material. Interesting way to repair a tire. I wouldn't think that it works. And somebody said, knowing the environment is crucial, so that relates to tacit knowledge. It's about knowing the environment. And the other person says resourcefulness in terms of finding a creative solution. That's also why it relates to tacit knowledge. And we understand what we have around us. And here we have, I think it's an unusual way to fix a tire. I'm used to other ways of repairing. Maybe these persons do repair with clothing like this once they have don't have other materials. And Steffi says, remarkable to find such a great solution. Okay, well, now just open up your microphone when you like to express yourself verbally, because I would like to know, we saw here a very special way of repairing a tire, and why does it relate to tacit knowledge? I saw creativity, resourcefulness, and it has to be knowing the context, the environment seem to be key ingredients. So who likes to add something to this?
Well, I think of my father, who was what I call a depression cook. And he had what I would call an instinct for how you can put absolutely nothing together and come up with a great meal.
Yeah.
And I think when people understand their resources. They come up with the solutions without a lot of great thinking effort. They just have a sense of, I mean, a good cook has a sense of what goes with what goes.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, yeah. So it's about having a sense, it's about knowing your resources, knowing your context. What else?
I think what is interesting is that they need to know the material. Maybe with a scientifically thinking mind, you would think it's not possible to repair a tire like that. But they try it out. They have maybe a better feeling for the material, and it works.
Yeah. So it's really about sensitivity, and it's also about, well, experiential learning, maybe?
Yeah, I would say so.
Yeah. Who likes to add on?
Hybrid coordination and tuition. Coordination because they are in two and probably they do not need to explain too much from one to the other person. And I think that when you're able to coordinate, taking for granted the action that the other person probably has to do as something that is linked with self-knowledge. Intuition, more yes, because it's instinct and it's the knowledge that came up actually.
Yeah.
What they're doing.
Yeah, yeah. No, indeed, it's very tacit knowledge. It's like intuitive instinct. It's like trying, learning, experiential. And at the moment that this documentary maker saw it, of course, then he took the tacit knowledge out to the know what, you know. He made it explicit by making this movie on it. But for them, it was just the way they did it. And they learned it, and they found it out, and they created it. Anybody else to add on? I don't think so, no. That's what I like very much about this. You know, it's so tacit, and just everything you're saying, you have to know very well your context. And then it's a sort of almost intuitively knowing about how to behave, how to do things, etc. And in fact, and now I come to culture, in fact, our profession, being intercultural professionals and trainers, is also, you know, we use all these metaphors. I just put a lot of them in this one slide, you know, and all those metaphors have in common that it's about the deeper levels, you know, the onion or either the iceberg, whatever. It's like the camera one of you had on the Padlet, you know, the way we frame the lenses, the deep levels, and in fact that's so tacit. It's almost intuitively how we behave, but also interculturally how we do that. So when we want to move on with intercultural learning, we always are looking for those deeper levels, and it becomes more tacit over time. And then it comes to this question, so how do our trainees optimally learn about intercultural competencies or intercultural effectiveness, or whatever words we use? And especially if the challenges we face, if they're laid in deep culture, in cultural attributions, in biases maybe, and also interpretative frameworks, then what learning environment would suit best? Would it be like more a formal learning environment or an informal learning environment? And those two are usually put on the end of like a continuum. And I don't know whether you have heard about the 70, 20, and 10% theory, in fact, the theory in learning, and what is found out, and it might not be exactly those percentages, but especially when people move on, when, you know, not the students, but when you're later on in your career, it's only 10% of what you learn you learn it in formal learning environments. It's 20% on the job with peers, and it's 70% in informal learning environments. And informal could be like LinkedIn group. George Simons knows all about that. You know, there's a lot of sharing going on between people who don't know each other but meet online and find this topic they want to share on. Peers amongst each other. It's what we have in the office, you know, during the coffee machine, during the breaks. That's a lot of informal learning going on. And when you think about combining those percentages in a learning strategy, then you come more to integrated cyclic programs that take the challenges of a workplace as a starting point, and then add on feedback and exchange with peers and colleagues. And the thing is that informal learning can't be managed. It can be facilitated, it can be supported and encouraged, but you get less and less control in a way, and the control goes bottom up to the people who's it all about. And here's person Jane Hart, and it was added on by Jay Cross, like a learning continuum. And it's from the top down, the control part, the formal learning part, to the bottom up part, and the informal learning part. And here they added on a couple of stages. And I'm not quite sure whether it's stages or whether it's just specific types, but you know, it's not about bad and good, you know, or right and wrong, but it is like, it's something else. Classroom training is something else than e-learning or blended learning or social learning or more collaborative learning and working. Well, in fact, learning and working is the same, you know. And the interesting thing is that the whole theory of informal learning is based on tacit knowledge. And when we in the field of intercultural, we know that it's always about those deeper levels. So there's a lot of informal learning about how to get into the intuition, how to really get on grips with, well, you know, the cultural part of things and the biases and the attributions. So I like those slides just to present to you like a line of thinking that was new to me when I first found this. And this is just like regular training courses, you know, formal learning environment, and we know it all, you know, when we talk about transfer of training, there is a knowledge loss, like the quote of Confucius, you know, you hear and you forget. And that's what usually also happens with some regular training courses. Within 6 months, no follow-up, you know, there's a knowledge loss of 75%, and in 12 months, it's even more. And here they just added on in the blue area like a sort of continuous learning. So how can you do regular formal learning? How can you add it with continuous learning, like social or informal learning environments, so that you have both and the best of two worlds? And here's this lady again, Jane Hart, who does a lot of learning trends and all that, and she even produced this comet tail of workplace learning trends, and sort of saying like the classroom training, well, it's even more than 15 years ago in her idea of trends, and e-learning and e-coaching is all in here. But she moves towards ways of learning like what we know, like simulations or MOOCs or gamification, but also she adds on with some informal learning and social learning. Well, here's the 7-20, 10% as well. And then she puts knowledge sharing as like, well, improving performance. And it's not that this would be a model that I want to introduce to all of you, but it's just like showing the way of thinking about how do people learn. And for me, it was like, hey, how do people learn about intercultural stuff, you know? And could it be in another way? So that's what the thoughts I had working on this. And I would be curious to hear your visions. And I just put this up like a sort of whiteboard, and I would like you to add for yourself, where do you place your work or your training approach on this scale, on this learning continuum? And you can use the annotation tool. So let me do it like this. On the left part of this whiteboard now, you have those annotation tools, and you can use the arrow pointer, and then you can add your name on these fields. Where do you see your intervention? Is it more on the formal learning side, or would it be in the blended area, or is it more on the informal side? And then I would like to hear from all of you, like, how do you feel about this? You know, just combining tacit knowledge with intercultural and with this whole learning continuum. Well, I already see the first arrows coming in. Maura is moving from the right to the left. Lotte is in Pavey. Do you all see where you can find the arrow? It's on the left-hand side, and it's like the...
To put arrows.
Excuse me?
It's not possible to put 2 arrows. Just
it's possible to put 1, and if you like to add 2, then just use the second tool, which is the text tool, and then you can start writing.
Okay.
So then you just put your name on one side and you write your other line or your name on the other side. And here somebody found the dot. Yeah. So I see Maura both on the left and both on the right now. Julia has added twice her name. Lothar, I see in the middle. Okay, well, while you're still going on with I just start with the ones I see. I see on the left-hand side, for instance, Helen, Maura, and Julia. So on the formal side. So please, would you say something about that? Helen, I just start with you. Helen, can you add something about why you put your arrow there?
Yes, I'm Martina. I can speak. You hear
yes,
me?
please, Martina.
I chose the classroom training in one way and the social learning because I think that both are very distant, but I can learn in these both ways. Classroom training, as in one way, I think it's very organized and you can appreciate what you are learning. I think it's very important, and that's the way in which I learn. And on the other side, I have social learning because I think that speaking to peers or friends or people I meet is also very valuable. Also.
Yes. Okay. Thank you. On both sides. So, Maura, you were also on both sides. Could you explain that, please? Maura?
Yes, I was.
Yes, there you are.
I was putting the microphone on. Yes, classroom training, because it's the more classical that I normally, it's the training that I normally deliver, and collaborative learning working, because especially now I'm working with students and I'm asking them to work in team groups all the time. So I see myself as a facilitator of collaborative learning, and then I'm learning by them as well all the time.
Yeah, and who adds the assignments and the instructions and the input? Is that you or is it them? Are they in charge or are you in charge? I think Maura has switched off her microphone again. Yeah, okay, well, let's see. Yes, there you are.
Yeah, what did you ask me?
I asked who is in charge, and are they in charge of their own learning? Can they just decide that now we want to learn about this?
It's a sharing, because I propose them to do something, but then they propose me the specific contents. So I'm proposing them a methodology, a process, but then they can choose the contents.
Yeah, so they are in charge of their own content and their own learning.
Yes, partially. Yes.
Yeah. Okay.
Divided the responsibility of learning.
Yeah. Interesting. Great. Yeah. Let me see. Pavy, you are in the middle.
Yes. I think how I approach the whole thing was it's also a question of the assignments I'm involved in. Sometimes my customers require e-learning solutions. Sometimes they require me to be in front of a classroom and do a very traditional way of engaging the participants. And sometimes I can sit down with my customer and who I'm training and just explain things that is more informal, and it's a lot sharing my own experiences. So it really varies.
Yes, it varies. Mm-hmm. Yeah. So it's good to hear that you have the blend already there. Lothar, you too, I see.
Yeah, it's sort of a similar thing. I do a lot of online training these days, and it's really more learning, complex blended learning that includes, sessions like we're doing here today, but also includes some lectures that have a lot more interactivity and a lot more quizzes and a lot more self-learning. And then teamwork in smaller teams across sort of the participant base, where they are working in virtual teams and have to develop solutions among themselves, and that doing part is very important, and that gets me closer to the collaborative learning stage there.
Yeah, okay, thank you. Let me see, just go to the left-hand side. Like Sabine, you're only there, is that true? Because you also added probably use different approaches in different settings. It's also in yellow.
Yes, absolutely. That's what I added. And in fact, I can just repeat or say similar things to what Pavy and Lothar said. It depends on what the client requires. And sometimes I do training, and then some things actually go almost into consulting, where I sit down with the client and develop a solution with them. And there's learning in there, and a consulting portion would be bringing in additional knowledge to come up with a solution. But on the way, it really depends on what the client requires. It could be any of those stages, in fact.
Yes. Mm-hmm. And you just add, yes.
I couldn't. I tried to make the arrow longer, but I wasn't successful. I think George was successful in making his arrow longer. So
because his name is longer, he added his last name. Yes. Yeah. Okay, let me see, because in fact, I would like to hear you all, and just add on, please, on anything else that you didn't hear just before. So maybe Birgit, Steffi, and Agatha, you're also somehow more on the right hand of the scale. Could you add something?
This is Birgit here now.
Yes.
Well, for me, obviously, I'm also involved in classroom teaching, classroom training. But more and more, and that is also what I prefer, I do a lot of, I think I could put it to informal learning or social learning, because I mentioned beforehand that I am a marine biologist, but also I'm ethologist, and I do lots of cultural traveling, which means I'm Austrian, and I have Austrian groups of people that I accompany to various places. That can be South America, that can be Australia, that can be Africa, that can be anywhere really. And what I do there is I just confront them with nature and cultures of different places and different people. So this is a very learning by doing, learning by just appreciating what you see and do and how people interact in different places. So I think that's got nothing to do with classroom training anymore. And this is what I absolutely prefer and love doing, because you're just there, you're there at the spot, and people see and they will remember. Definitely.
Yes. Yeah. And do you reach the deeper levels of the tacit knowledge that we're talking about?
It depends. It depends very much. I try. But I guess it depends very much on the groups. Sometimes it works, sometimes it doesn't that much. It also depends on how willing and how open. I travel with Austrian groups, which makes it more difficult because Austrian groups are usually not very open-minded. So I got to bring them there first place to have them see things that they don't usually. They're not usually aware of. So it's difficult, but
Yes.
I'm trying and I'm getting there. And sometimes I have very good reactions and good feedback, and that's what I love about that part of the job.
Yeah, interesting. Yeah, just to see and to mix and to massage how to get on those deeper levels.
Yeah.
And the real exchange and how to open up like the lens, you know, having another frame set added.
Exactly.
Yes. Okay. Like Steffi and Agatha, do you have additional methods?
Well, actually, I'm teaching students at the European Academy of Diplomacy, and
who? Please say your name.
Agatha.
Yeah, Agatha. Hello. Hi. Yes.
Sorry, I'm here with my small daughter, so she might.
Yes, we hear her too. Great.
Yeah. So actually, with my students, I have many approaches. Actually, we have classes. Actually, kind of a lecture. I do have several groups on Facebook, so we communicate also through the social media. Apart from that, we have I'm using actually different types of other social media and other tools to interact with them, different quizzes, and many of them are actually online. So this is kind of a blended learning, definitely. However, we still the base, I can say, the base is always a lecture and interactive activities during the class.
Okay, yeah, well, that's interesting. Where's the base and where's the rest, you know? And could we even change that sometimes?
Exactly.
Yeah, great. And let's see, Steffi, would you like to add, because you're also on the more on the informal learning side? I see you're unmuted.
Hello?
Yes, there you are. Yes.
No, oh, sorry. Okay. Yeah. So I put myself somehow not really in the middle, but I think I prefer also this collaborative style. So I do a lot of workshops and use more or less a coaching approach, so that from the beginning I give the competence somehow to the participants.
Mm-hmm.
I give the structure and also some input, but then I don't know if somebody said it already before, so I give them the input, the content, let them work together, give them cases, so they also do coach each other, and so that we all learn from each other. So they learn from me and I learn from them, so it's a kind of mixture.
Yeah, it's also a blend in that way. Thank you. Is there somebody else who would like to add to the discussion? Because I didn't do anybody, all of you already. Oh, I don't see anybody speaking right now. Well, thank you for sharing all your... George, you would like to say something? Do I see that? Yeah.
I didn't know where to put my arrow, because
okay.
all of those things can happen, but I don't, you know, I just came out of a week teaching in a classroom in a university business school, and there's endless numbers of techniques for doing things, but my sense of it is that I'm best when I connect personally with the whole person. Now, that sounds like vague philosophy, but it has to do with reaching the unconscious as well as the conscious with stories and sounds, moving in and out of people's spaces. And obviously this works best when you're in a human connection, co-located. But you try to do the same kinds of things even if you're training online. So
Yeah.
I find it hard to cut these things apart, you know.
Yes, I understand. And they're very much linked to each other. And there's a lot of discussions also going on, like, sometimes people say, oh, I'm just working in Facebook groups, groups, Facebook groups. It's so informal. It depends, when you just give assignments and they have to do it. Maybe, yes, it's online, but it's formal in a way, so it depends very much, but it's the thinking behind it which is interesting. And in fact, it doesn't matter that much where to put the arrow, but it is knowing what you're doing and how you're doing it and why you're doing it. And like Birgit also said, do I get to the level when I take this group along on the trip? Do we get to the level where I want them to? Maybe not, but you got very far, with the interventions you had.
Well, I think what you're saying there is really that, at least my perspective of it is intentionality drives this. I try to keep my intention as well as I can, saying, what can I do which will assist this person to more fully comprehend, coexist with whatever the topic is or the aim of our training or our teaching.
Yes.
It's really a discipline, almost like a spiritual discipline of trying to be as using your whole self in such a way that you are, in a sense, selflessly giving to the person whom you're working with or the group that you're working with.
Yeah, beautiful. Thank you. Yes. Well, let me say a couple of things that I've been doing recently, just sharing and what I felt like when I've been starting working on blends and really adding the informal and combining the formal and the informal, I see it has more impact. And also the use of synchronous activities and asynchronous, like for now we're at the same moment we're learning together, the classroom, the same thing, the same moment we're learning together, but also sometimes just having a space where you can be, but not exactly at the same time. It's a context for different kind of learning, and that's what I find very much. It's very worthwhile. Some people need that also because they need more time to think and to think about things, and then write it down and rehearse on it. This is, for instance, one of the blended approaches I use, and I sometimes I start even online, and for a lot of people it's like, wow, can you start a course online? Yes, easily, but you have to start, and then I agree with your intentions, with personal connection and personal intentions, and you have to be very well aware of all your participants, what they want and where they are and where their needs are, their intercultural training needs in this case. And for instance, and I start online, and then after just 2 weeks only, there's the face-to-face days. But before we had a welcoming webinar and online assignments and group work, even group work. So and then I see that the face-to-face days are so much more beneficial. And then again, we go back online again, but we do see each other during those small webinars. But the learning goes in 6 weeks, which is also like what neuroscience says. In 6 weeks, more happens, and you can also work on deeper levels. It's not just coming in and out, but it takes more time, and you're working also on partly on the unconscious level. And I work, for instance, with intercultural competencies in this approach. And every week there's one competency which is central. So there is a rhythm in the approach, but everybody has his own way to go through the program. And that's what I call the red threads. And what I found very interesting by experimenting is that anyone can have his own very case-specific red thread, and one is about intercultural marketing, and the other one is about what's about my identity as bicultural person, and another one is working with Chinese or with one specific cultural group, and all those learning threads, red threads together, and within the rhythm, it works, and I found it very interesting, and they start reacting on each other, and they learn by that. What else happened? This is, for instance, like the space, the online meeting space, and I do it in Ning, but there are, of course, many online communities, like already was mentioned, Facebook, many Moodle. Usually it's more like for formal learning, like more the classes, and you can do quizzes and even with degrees on it. But this is also more a social community space, and where you can add like little movies. Well, many of you know that, maybe, and some maybe not. You can add screencasts, so add your own PowerPoint slides and just make a little movie of it. I work, for instance, with intercultural assessment tool, the intercultural readiness check, and every single week after the first 2 weeks, in this case, then one competency is central, and which gives like a rhythm. I don't use readers anymore or books, but what I do use is like this portal, and I created also a portal on blended learning, and I will share it with you after the webinar. And it's just open source, this Symbaloo, and you just can add all the links you have and you find interesting for a specific topic, and people create their own ways, and some people, they just are reading everything, and a couple, they read just what they need, and some say, hey, I want this direction, and all of a sudden I start digging for more material in a specific area where participant goes. So it's interesting to see how informal learning creates like a river, you know, it creates its own way. It's not a canal anymore, but it just go with the flow of the participants. And that's what I like about this 70-10-20 model as well. Let me go back to you now, and I'm also watching the clock, and I would like to know, and I already heard a couple of course, of your examples, because many of you are already working with this model. So maybe it's not that relevant, but maybe it is. Like, what actions could you take towards 70-20-10? And I just heard somebody say, well, I usually start with the 10%, you know, with the formal, but maybe you don't have to start there. You have to do it, you know, but maybe later on. So I just would like to hear a couple of things. And now please use not the arrow points, but the text tool. So maybe when you have some inspiration, just add on this chart, what actions could you take towards the 70-20-10, and just write it at where well, this radar is placed. And you can use the AA. The text tool. I already see here the first one coming in, group work. I just give you a little time to think about it and just write some things that came to mind. Great. I already see some things coming in. I just give you the floor already while you're still thinking about it, and just keep on writing, please. But I have some very intriguing one here. Oh, but now it's erased. Bahia was part of CC learning. Who wrote that? And please explain what you meant. Nobody wrote that. Bahia. Okay, who wrote taking walks and exchanging thoughts?
That's me, Bailey.
Yes, please.
Yeah, there's a lot of discussion how we should have meetings instead of sitting down. We should actually go for a walk. And I'm actually studying at the same time as doing our work, and we've agreed to go with my peers just for a walk and exchange our ideas and what we've learned and sort of get that information flowing in a very different mode than usually. So I think it could be something we could use much more than we do in today's world.
Yeah, great. So, in fact, it's part of synchronous learning because you are there at the same time, but what you do is not staying inside, but you go out.
Correct.
In fact, you're blending the 10%, isn't it?
That's true, yeah.
Yeah, okay, great. Maximize cases and action-oriented learning. Who wrote that?
That was me, Lothar.
Yeah, hello.
Pretty much self-explanatory, I guess.
Yeah.
Maybe I need to give some background info there. I do a lot of work with extremely mixed groups where actually I sometimes have people from 12 different countries located in their respective countries within one online training. And so by using this approach, I give them a lot of sort of forced immersion opportunities in working on virtual cross-cultural teams, and that usually gives them a great opportunity to really discover while doing sort of the subjects that they are supposed to learn.
Yeah. Now, this is practice what you preach, but what you do is you have already a lot of diversity within your group, and the topic is diversity.
Right.
Is that it? Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Well, in my case, it actually isn't necessarily. One of the areas where I do quite a bit of work is international project management, and I'm trying to sort of help project managers discover how to work effectively in culturally highly mixed teams. And so in a class like that, they actually have an opportunity to practice what they're learning in the teamwork already.
Yeah. Great. Yeah. Learn in the classroom already what it's all about. In fact, it could be 10%, but since you're doing it within another context, it's also the 20 and the 70%.
Right, exactly.
Yeah. Here's the Bahia again. Bahia journeying as part of CC learning. Who put that? Still nobody?
I think Petra.
Petra, did you put it?
I chat with Petra about Bahia.
Okay. Oh, your microphone doesn't work. Oh, that's the case. That's why. Let me see, because here's the chat. Thanks for informing me, Era. We organized a journey to friends and interested people to Bahia. Now I'm convinced to integrate into my professional offer on cross-culture. Okay. And what or where is Bahia? But it's a journey to a specific place. That's what I'm reading here. Well, again, so it's walking and it's going on a journey. Here's somebody else saying being very personal and learn from biographies.
This is Monica.
Yes.
I think it's very important to, maybe for others this is very normal, but I find trainers who don't do that very much. The first thing what I think is very important is to give an atmosphere so everybody could really share his own experiences, because some people are very scared and they think they do something wrong when they are in a group, and it's very important that they first have a feeling of, here now it's like my family, I can talk like I really are at home. Not something professional. This is somewhere where I can trust and I can share my secrets or something which is a difficult topic for me. But there are other people who are different, but they have all similar problems, and we can share and somehow we can try to learn from each other. For me, it's very important that it's very personal.
It's very personal. And do you do that face-to-face, or do you do this personal part also in online, like a webinar, or online, even like an online community?
No, it's more in a formal atmosphere, but I allow the participants to take over and to take the time for themselves, because they have no other opportunity, and this is a way where they can open themselves and share their experience with other people, and so the people have the opportunity to learn from each other.
Mm-hmm. Great, great. And I even could add that from my experience that you can even do this very personal part, not only face-to-face, but also online and even written online in like an online learning community. Once you've established these good connections amongst each other and the confidentiality and the safety, you can just go on, and there's where the real learning and also on the tacit level starts with each other.
Mm-hmm. Interesting.
Yeah, great, great. Thank you. Continue to sell dinner as part of a training. Wow, who wrote that? Maybe somebody else with problems with
It is here it's in blue again, so it might be Petra
probably,
again.
Yeah, it's probably Petra.
Maybe Petra can write again in the chat.
Thank you very much. Okay, here's the light blue. Group work, give enough space to create networks, letting participants create part of the workshop. Okay. Combining an assignments with a coffee break, building trust exercises, intervention on personal cases. Who could explain a little bit more about this?
Yeah, that was actually me. I just wrote down what I'm actually doing. I don't know whether this, maybe this is anyway common sense. I'm not sure about it.
It's Steffi speaking, isn't it?
Steffi, yes.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. Yeah. So, and do you do this only in the face-to-face learning environment, or also in social or online informal environments?
Also informal. So I really try to always first to create a space of trust. So I think it's everything said also a little bit to really that they bring personal things inside and share personal experiences, whatever, so that there's a trust. And then I do also group work, and so that even I'm not in there anymore. So they work 2 people or 3 people together, and they can really share their experience, feel safe, and they're like, okay, we do this now, and they work on their own experiences and bring just that back, but what they want to bring back. So things like that. Yeah. And I like also that, creating a part of the workshop so that that they need to prepare something for the workshops. That's not only always me who's telling something to them, but that they bring also something back, even if it's just a warm up maybe or something like that.
Yeah. And what you're saying here is also like more and more the ownership goes to them.
Yeah, or this intervision part I read now here. So I like also that I always tell them that they are the experts. Yeah. On their own cases. So I give them even the process that they can kind of coach or guide each other without me. Mm-hmm. So then that they can also later do that. So if I'm not there anymore, so that they do that even then. Meet again once a month or whatever, without an external trainer or whatever, to help each other.
Yeah, good. Thank you. Last but not least, be brave to use more virtual environments, probably. Who wrote that?
That's me, Julia. Yes. What I realize is that very often, in our case, we sell programs that are face-to-face and short-term, rather 1-2 day seminars. And I think that there lies a big chance within virtual environments to actually increase informal learning and collaborative learning. And I think that we as provider really need to learn more about what kind of tools there are, what kind of environments, also sometimes intranets within companies, so that participants in any kind of training are intrigued to use those environments more.
Yeah. Yeah, no, that's what also I can fully agree with you. But sometimes we as trainers, we start where we feel confident and our comfort zone, and it's still the classroom. And even with all the interactive learning and everything we do, but sometimes flip the classroom. That's also well what they use in education, and it's really the other way around. And sometimes it can be even turned more around that we actually could imagine, and that really the participants have their own ownership, their own red thread, and we follow them. And of course, we have some lines and some things in mind that we found it's important to get learned. But you know, they're in charge in that way. Thank you for sharing this. Well, I'm looking at the clock. We only have 5 minutes left, so it's amazing how time flies. And I would like to give you the opportunity to ask questions, and also, yes, and then we come to the checkout. So maybe we have one more final question. 2, 1. Anyone, please. Well, otherwise, I just go to the next one, and it's the checkout. And I would like to know, how did you experience this webinar today? And maybe you're very experienced webinar participants, or maybe it was your first or second webinar. And also about this topic, you know, what did you take away from this webinar? And please use the chat for that. And also I would like to hear a word of all of you. So open your microphone and say a word, and at the same time start writing on the chat, please. So that would be like final last couple of minutes for at the end of this webinar. Who would like to start with saying something? Just take the floor, please.
Okay, then I take the floor. I'm Steffi. I actually like the 70-20, 10% model. I didn't hear about it before, and so I like this overview. And I didn't know what I would expect before, so I was surprised about all these learning theories, but it was really interesting for me. I really liked it. I think I will use some of them. And also how you created this workshop, I liked it. So, and also to get this sharing and knowledge from all the others, I liked it also very much. Thank you.
Yeah,
Thank you very much.
Thank you. Yeah, thank you. Yeah. Who else? And in the meantime, I see the chat coming in. I'm just opening up the chat right now, and I see all these things coming in. Against all odds, let's see, interesting ideas for virtual training. Thanks, good learning from each other. And that's exactly why I like working in WebEx that much, because it's interactive, you know, it's not one-way teaching. Encouraging, empowering to pick up the red thread of open learning. Muito obrigado. First webinar, 70-20 model is interesting. I want to focus more on informal learning in the future. 70-20-10 again. Interesting ideas, great reminders, and got to run, sharing experience. All right, well, joint interaction and liveliness. Well, thank you very much. I enjoyed it too. And like I said, always time flies, and at the same time we already did a lot together. And well, it was great to be here with you. Like I said, I'm going to send you a couple of things just after the webinars, like this Symbaloo on blended learning. There's also a lot of background information on the 70-20-10 and much more. And I want to share give my thanks also for the background for this webinar, because the Intercultural Readiness Center supported the webinar technically, and then Eric, the Sietar Netherlands webmaster, did the technical background. So thank you all participants, and hope to see you, well, maybe at the Sietar Europe Congress in Valencia in May. And otherwise, we see each other online or within the LinkedIn group. Well, so great having you here tonight.
Thank you very much.
Thank you. Yes. Okay.
Thank you.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye. Have a nice evening.
Have a nice evening to all
Good
of
night.
you. And thank you for being here.
Goodbye.
Bye-bye, George. Bye-bye.
Bye.
Bye-bye. You're the little one as well, Agatha.
Thanks a lot, Yvonne.
Yes, thank you.
Ikke der vi skal på slanker til seg selv, vi skal ha hele opplegget. Og så det der, nå vi tar